Okay, so where do I start?
In the beginning.
The movie begins with a narrator explaining that he comes from a place called Eternia, the world of endless beauty and all the stuff that only exists in legends and bedtime stories. This place has dragons and talking lions and islands that float in the sky, but the narrator focuses on a place called Castle Grayskull, which is the heart of the heart of the heart of the heart of the power of Grayskull, and that is the heart of Eternia.
The heart of the heart of the heart.
And it has the power to make the most powerful human beings as mighty as gods. To keep this heart thing safe, the power was bound by the Sword of Power, which is a really unique name. I mean, the Sword of Power, it's basically a sword that has power. You know, the name describes what it is. If all movies did this, I don't think people would get so confused all the time. Like Mjolnir. Just call it the Hammer of Lightning or something. Why do you gotta give it fancy names and stuff that we can't even pronounce? Anyway, so the legend says that one day a legend will use and wield the sword, which is a very, very prophetic legend. You know, it's so detailed. It's not really, it's actually just straight to the point, which is pretty cool. Many legends are like, so this guy is gonna come from the west and he's gonna turn our lives around because he's got a magic ring and he can command the clouds to fall from the sky. In the meantime, he, I don't know, just makes it rain or something. Anyway. At this point, the sword is locked in a castle under the eyes of a pretty cool but also very scary sorceress. We are then introduced to a boy who is the Prince of Eternia. And he has this talking green tiger furry thing. The boy then goes to training and is the shortest one there, and I think he's the only blonde one there also. I never saw another blonde kid there. Anyway, the teacher then starts giving a speech and asks one of the students what he's holding. And the kid then answers the question that the teacher asked.
Anybody know what it is?
It's a stick.
And the teacher gets all upset and assaults the kid. Like, what? Bruh, you asked him what you're holding and the kid said you're holding a stick. What are you getting mad for? I wouldn't be surprised if that kid becomes a villain later in this film. I wouldn't blame him either. I'd be on his side. Kid deserves better. To make matters worse, another student says that he's holding his arms. And he's like, that's my girl. What? That is physically impossible. How are you going to hold your arms? What arms are you going to be holding your arms with? That just doesn't make any sense. It's the dumbest thing she could have said, and he's gonna compliment that, but hit the guy who actually answered the question correctly? Bruh, what? Anyways, the class goes on and the boy gets pushed around by the teacher's pet. He's pretty ass at fighting, and the teacher has zero hope for him. As the students are training, the king walks in to check on his kid and beats his ass because he isn't manly enough. Okay, now this is just great parenting in my opinion. He teaches his son a great lesson. So our depressed small boy sulks on a balcony and the teacher's pet shows up to comfort him. And they see the sorceress being all weird and whatever. And then, out of nowhere, boom! Guns, explosions, boom, boom, boom. A war breaks out of the blue.
No, we are under attack.
Yeah, no kidding. I couldn't tell with all the laser shots going off that we're under attack. Get a load of this guy. What is he doing? Of course they're under attack. The king is literally looking over the balcony at his whole entire kingdom being shot down by warships. And you're here to tell him that you're under attack? I think he has eyes and he can see that, bro. This guy is the worst second What is he, a second in command or is he a teacher? Because he's just bad at both jobs. So the kingdom is under attack by Gestamaxes, and Juggernaut does his best to hold them off. I mean, just look at these guys. You can't tell me they're not Gestamaxes. We also have a freaky Mr. Fantastic, and man, is this where you guys were when Thanos was beating up my boy Captain America? So it looks like the Gestamaxes are taking over, so the king and his family are forced to run away, and the teacher shows off his sick skills with the electric guitar backtrack going crazy. He's badass. And then he gets killed by Captain Hook in front of his own daughter. Anyways, the king gets surrounded by the Gestamaxes, and then a badass skull guy with a cloak emerges. This guy is freaking cool as hell. How do I become a Jester Maxer? Because that guy is freaking cool. He is the bad guy, by the way, and he's here for the throne, I think. So the king is captured, but the mother and the small boy is, for some reason, allowed to escape. I don't know why, but they were just allowed to run away. The skull guy does steal the crown, and I guess he's the king now, which I am totally cool with. This guy is awesome. The boy then takes his sweet ass time to grab the power sword, and the sorceress sends the small boy to Earth alone. I don't know why the mother couldn't go with, but they take way too long to step through the portal, and his mother is then killed by Skullface. As the boy jumps through the portal, he's told not to lose the sword because it's his only way back. And then he immediately loses the sword in the portal. Well done, buddy. So we fast forward a few years and we meet the narrator, who is actually the older version of that small boy. And he's currently on a date explaining his story to this lady who thinks that he's had a bit much to drink or he's on drugs or something, and she ends up leaving him. What did you expect would happen? So the guy goes home to his roommate, and the next day we figure out he can't drive a stick as he drives himself to work or therapy or whatever. I don't know, that's what it seems like. I mean, it's filled with a bunch of AIZ stuff, as you can see here, and you know, the way people talk about things and whatever. So we're just going to ignore all of that and focus on the storyline.
Oh, wait, it's the KGB. Ding dong.
I'm not answering that.
Yes, you're going
You
to.
answer
I'm
it.
not going to answer
I'm not going to answer it. It's the KGB.
The KGB will fit for no one.
So he's been looking for the sword for a long time, so much so that it's been affecting his work, and his super annoying boss threatened to fire him if he didn't give up his search. As he's in the meeting with his boss, he gets a random message from a random person saying that they've apparently found the sword out of the blue, and he's willing to give it to Blondie for $300. This sounds like a scam to me. I don't know why, but Blondie decides to believe it. I think he quits his job, I don't know, or the boss said that he's fired if he leaves, and then he leaves, so I guess he's fired, and he heads to pick up his sword, because he just believes that it's the real deal. I don't know. So he ends up meeting this guy at a comic book store, and he finds the sword. After all these years of searching, he finally finds his sword. And it turns out it was fake. It was just part of a figurine, and it doesn't work. He actually destroys the entire figurine just to get the sword, and it turns out it was fake. That's pretty embarrassing. So he heads home, and the next morning he wakes up to policemen at his door because he's being arrested for being a weirdo. As they're driving towards the police station, a random furry big beast thing appears out of nowhere and destroys the cop car, allowing him to escape. So it turns out that that sword was actually real, and it brought back all of the people from his home planet. Why was the sword in the action figure? That doesn't make any sense. It's a real sword. We know this because he uses it in combat later in the movie, spoilers alert. Why was it in an action figure? So the furry attacks Blondie, not to kill him. The furry doesn't even know that he's the prince. He thinks Blondie is a random NPC. The furry's actually trying to get the sword to take back to his master Skullface, and will just kill anyone that's in his way. But not to worry. Even though our Blondie doesn't know how to fight and he's so unfit, he's saved by none other than the teacher's pet. And they start fighting, and when she gets pinned down by the beast, he starts flexing on her instead of taking the final blow. Like, what? What are we doing here, bro? Why are you emoting on her before the match is even won? You had her. You gave her time to slam a car door in your face? Now look at you, fool. Do better, bro. And the furry doesn't even learn from his mistake because he catches up to them and forgets to look both ways before crossing the road and gets hit by a prime truck. He just doesn't get a break. Also, the amount of brand deals that are in this movie are insane, by the way. So Blondie and the teacher's pet make it back to their home planet, and everything is absolutely destroyed. Everything is gone. Yeah, Skullface absolutely demolished everything. We then cut to the pig in the Jester Maxes, and he wakes up Skullface, who again, this guy is bad ass. So the pig tries its hardest not to become bacon, and then the sorceress enters to bring the bad news to Skullface that the prince has returned. The Skullmaxer desperately wants his sword, but he's also super delusional because he thinks that he's a just king and loves his people. But he just kills everyone and he expects them to love him for it. So he's scared that he will lose his throne, which is why he's so desperate for the sword, because whoever has the sword of the power is a threat to his crown. So now everyone on the good side is introduced to the prince. We have Iron Fist, Juggernaut, a furry. Nobody believes that he's the prince because he's actually a loser. Even I'm starting to doubt that he's the prince, and I saw his origin. I still think he's a loser. So the good guys send Blondie to prison to hold him for questioning while they figure out what's going on. But this movie moves so fast because before the good guys can do anything else, the Jestemaxes suddenly attack their hidden hideout. It turns out Blondie and the teacher's pet weren't watching their six and were followed by Cyborg, who works for Skullface. But boom! Another shocker! The teacher is still alive. That's right. Captain Hook never killed him, he survived, and he has since been promoted from the king's commander to the drunk guy of the prison. Yeah, he's a drunk now. So they escape prison with the help of a robot who just walks through the door, and the sword conveniently rolls into their path as they escape, but they don't get far because Captain Hook gets in their way of their escape. And this guy, this stupid guy right here, he thinks that talking will resolve things, which obviously doesn't work. And I don't know why, but as Captain Hook is fighting, I'm not getting the same effort as when he fought the teacher all those years ago. Maybe he was lazy or just getting old. Either way, it's time to hang up the boots, buddy. Because if you fought this loser like you fought the teacher, you would have absolutely destroyed this kid. Anyway, the Blondie has a great idea to use the sword, and the sorcerer lives in his eyes, I guess, and tells him to say the words. So he says the magic words, abracadabra, or whatever he said, like he's casting a spell, and all of a sudden, a lightning turns the guy into pure muscle. Blondie looks absolutely ridiculous, and the electric guitar is on full blast again. He's now a professional MMA fighter and takes out Captain Hook's entire squad, and Blondie and the crew escape as Skullface watches them flee, sending his goons out to chase them, which of course fails, and Blondie's crew is safe. But not everyone is safe because Skullface captures the rest of the rebels and holds them hostage. He kills a few of them for fun, but who can blame him though? You have to set an example, right? I mean, it worked because Iron Fist turns out to be a snitch and tells Skullface that Blondie is actually the prince. Why would he snitch like that? Sure, some of his friends are killed, but I'll snitch, bro. Back in the woods, the teacher's pet crashes the aircraft. The woman driver strikes again. And Blondie starts questioning who he is. And he's answered by a falcon, or an eagle, or some sort of bird who basically says that he's the chosen one.
Love me. You were the chosen one. Love me. It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them. Love me.
But then the teacher's pet ruins the moment between Blondie and the bird to bring him back to camp. Once they get back to camp, they find the teacher shaving. His daughter, aka the teacher's pet, thinks that he's a changed man just because she sees him shaving. But he brings her back to reality by pulling out some alcohol and gives Blondie a pep talk. By the way, I just thought I'd mention this. For a movie with such childish comedy,
Actually, don't do it. Okay, you did it. All right.
You got my sword?
what? It sure does have some pretty dirty jokes in there.
Smaller than I thought.
Well, it's just because my hand is so big.
Your loincloth is in my
This seems dangerous.
pussy.
He's not a pussycat.
I don't really know which audience this movie's for. But anyways, perhaps you guys can let me know in the comment section. And if you made it this far, while you're down there, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another upload. Nobody knows when I'll upload next, so hit that bell notification too so you're the first to know. Back to the movie. So Blondie and the teacher's pet ended up with some alone time, and the teacher's pet starts leading Blondie on. She's saying things like she couldn't stop thinking of him, she thought of him every day, and he starts lying to her. He says that he's felt the same way this whole time. But let's quickly backtrack to the beginning when this guy was on a date with another woman. Bruh. Why are you lying? It doesn't really matter though. She friend zones his ass right before he was about to smooch her. That really hurts. But honestly, I think he deserves it. He was dating other women on Earth and straight up lies to her face, saying that he thought about her every day. Man, You were thinking of swords every day. You forgot about her. Anyway, Skullface appears in the sky. Like I said, this guy is bad ass. He is gaining aura points by the second. He makes an offer to Blondie. The sword for his parents. What? The parents are alive? Yes, they're alive. Shock horror. So he decides he's gonna walk all the way to the Jester Max's place to meet Skullface, the exact person he just ran from. You see what I mean? This movie moves so fast. The pacing is way too quick. It's not a major issue though. Blondie and Skullface are now face to face, finally meeting, and his father is there. What an emotional reunion. Super happy for them, but it is cut short because we haven't had a fight scene in a while, so let's bring in the electric guitars, the Jester Maxes, so that we can show off Blondie's new powers. Once he obviously defeats everyone, the evil sorcerer traps him in a frozen state, and Skullface is about to kill the king in front of his son. I don't know why they didn't do this from the beginning, but anyway, we're here now. Blondie gets so mad that somehow he escapes the frozen thing with lightning from his sword and makes the roof collapse on his own father. Yeah, he kills his own father. This really happened, I promise. The hell is this movie, man? He's not fully dead yet, don't worry. He still gets to talk with his son and die in his arms slowly. Where the hell did the evil sorcerer go though? The roof clearly fell on the father and Skullface, but not the sorcerer. She just left the group chat, or what's going on here? Somehow, Skullface actually wasn't buried by the rubble and knocks out Blondie from behind after watching his father die in his arms. I still don't think Skullface is all that bad. Yes, he kills everyone so that he can have power, and maybe the land looks a little bit dirty, but I'm sure he will clean the streets in his second term, right? He never killed the king. Blondie did. I don't see why he's the bad guy here. Just because he has a skull for a face, that's gotta be racist. So they capture Blondie's ass and somehow steals his powers. I don't know how, but they stole it. But he gets to see his mom in prison. Yes, she's alive too. She didn't die. So Skullface never killed his mom or his dad. How is he the bad guy? But now we have a problem. How is Blondie gonna tell her that he killed her husband? Ooh, he doesn't. Ooh, he just says he's gone. Dang. He's not even gonna tell her that he killed him. That's kind of messed up. Back in the evil there, Skullface is now struggling to gain the power from the sword. Apparently, it can only work if the evil sorcerer performs a ritual in the Grey Skull palace thing. So they head over there while we go back to the guys in the prison. The teacher gives Blondie another pep talk as a drunk man, and as we all know, drunk men give the best advice. And of course the pep talk works and everyone is happy. And then out of nowhere, Blondie's old talking tiger pet furry thing says, "Hello." And he's grown into this huge ass green furry. This guy is talking with everyone except for his mom. Isn't that crazy? He doesn't even feel guilty about killing his own father. So Blondie is inspired by the drunk teacher's pep talk, as he should be, and decides to have a pep talk with all of the prisoners. I guess there aren't any guards or anything around because they escape rather easily. Not sure why nobody thought to escape earlier, to be honest. Oh, I guess there were a couple of guards around. Anyway, they escape and somehow know exactly where Skullface went. Maybe they asked the guards, I don't know. Anyway, Blondie, his furry pet, and the teacher's pet goes into the mouth of the skull building while every other person holds off the Jester Maxes. So there are of course 3 bad guys and 3 good guys. So each person has someone to fight. We have the bad sorcerer against the teacher's pet. We have the green tiger furry against another angry furry. And finally, in the blue corner, coming in at 22 pounds, he's evil, he's devilish, he's aura. He is Skullface! And in the red corner, coming in at 150 pounds,
He likes swords. He likes the friend zone.
He's killed his father and lied to his mother about it.
It is Blondie.
for those of you wondering why I said Skullface is 22 pounds, it's because that's about how heavy skeletons weigh. Just a little Easter egg for you, I guess. So we're gonna head out and come back to this fight a bit later, not only to build the suspense and keep you watching my video longer, but also because the movie cuts to the teacher fighting his arch nemesis, Captain Hook. He kills Captain Hook in like 2 minutes. Like I said, Captain Hook fell off. He's not the fighter he used to be. What a shame to end his career like that. Anyways, cut back to the main event. Skullface ends up destroying the sword. Blondie's on the ground. His powers are gone. The sword is destroyed. What will he do? Oh, we got jumped into Blondie's mind. Skullface is running through Blondie's mind, showing him who he really is, which is a wimp and a loser, which I agree with. And then out of nowhere, Blondie gets stabbed by a broken sword and his mind is all messed up. He's dying in his homeland while his mind is living on Earth at the moment in a dream or something. Also, the Falcon Eagle thing comes back in his dream while he's dreaming of being on Earth at the moment while he's dying and takes him on a spiritual journey or something. And long story short, because it's all boring details here, like the sword gave him the power, blah blah blah, and he has a big Thor moment where the power isn't in Mjolnir, but it's in him. So Blondie is magically healed because he has the power. I got the power! I got the power! Anyway. So he's transported back out of his mind, back into his home place in the Skull Building, and he's super healed. He gets his powers back and he kills Skullface, as you would have probably expected. Just kidding. He doesn't kill Skullface because it's a kid's movie, I think. I think it's a kid's movie. I'm not too sure yet because of the dirty jokes.
Pussy.
And he basically forgives Skullface. Skullface just laughs in his face because that was the dumbest thing Blondie could have done. Skullface is just so badass, man. The electric guitar starts and he throws hands. Man, I just want Skullface to win. But because of plot armor, of course Blondie is overpowered and defeats Skullface. I would have loved to see Skullface get that power. Imagine how much more badass he would have been. The aura points that were stacking up, man, he deserved better. But yeah, he died. In the end, unfortunately, he actually definitely dies. What a shame. Anyways, the evil sorcerer escaped. Don't know what happened to her. Maybe she'll be back in movie number 2 or something. I don't know what they're planning. So 6 months later, the land is beautiful again and Blondie is king. Everyone is making jokes.
This is a little revealing.
Okay, yeah, comedy is thriving, man. I'll save you guys from the rest of the bad jokes, and you're welcome. The movie ends with Blondie running off to save a village under attack, and yeah, that about sums up the whole movie. There were some end credits, but it was nothing really special. It was a lady with blonde hair that has a sword with lightning also, so I guess she also has the power of gods. So they are definitely setting up a second movie like I suggested earlier. But other than that, it was a pretty good watch. Fun if you're bored, I guess. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, just above average. And all those 6 points are because of Skullman. That guy carried. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and perhaps a comment. And yeah, thanks for watching. Until next time.